Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot. The comic spot. Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.
Hi, everybody. Guess who? I'm back. You can't get rid of little old white ladies. You ought to know that by now. I'm Linda Marcus Smith, the host of Comic Spot Interviews. And today is an interview number 832. So we're kicking it. These were generated so that you can get to know who comedians are off stage. You go and you say, oh, let's go to comedy, honey. And then you get there and you're like, I don't like that guy. I don't like that girl. I didn't like their choice of material. Not that it even offended you. It's not your style of comedy, or it's not your kind of person. So now's your chance to get to know people off stage so you can see that you do want to go to Ken Mottard or Linda Marcus Smith or whoever. That's your way of getting to know people. And it's also a way for bookers, club owners, agents to find out who they want to book. So, and then the clean shows we do on Saturday and Sunday that Ken Mottard's been in, that's a great way for Armed Forces Entertainment, the bookers at, USO to check out the clean comics around. So that's their chance to do clean material and get spotted and picked up, maybe even for late night. Who knows where this is going, you guys? And give it up for my only sponsor, the veteransofcomedy.com. And so if you've ever thought that you wanted to hire somebody who used to serve our country and is now serving up jokes, go to the veteransofcomedy.com and find my video. Find a video you like. Where did that come from? That was so selfish. So now today I get the extreme pleasure of bringing to you somebody who's been a very strong regular supporter of the military show we do on Saturdays and Sundays. I've adored him and his comedy, even getting to meet his wife. She comes on here and sets everything up. Let me do the intro for the gentleman waving to you in the other square. He's waving to you in the other square. He says, I'm a proud USMC veteran. That means U.S. Marine Corps for you young people. I'm very happily married to my best friend and lovely bride for the last 16 years. They've been together for 22 years. It doesn't necessarily mean in sin, so don't jump to conclusions. I'm 27 years sober. He's been sober longer than he's known his wife. Wow. She didn't make him stop, evidently. What can we draw out of this? And yes, that's a big deal. In his drinking days as a bar bet for drinks, he would snort pepper. Don't do that. He really enjoys life. He's still learning how to do it at 54, and he's having a great time. And you can tell that by his pictures, and you're going to tell it by what he says right now. Give it up right now for Ken Mottard. Woo!
Hey. Thank you so much for having me on. I've been waiting for this since we agreed to do it 3-4 weeks ago. So let's go.
Thank you so much for being patient. Man, I have to spread it out or I'll burn out. People really like these. Yes, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you taking time to get interviewed. What city are you in? You're in between two palm trees. So.
Well, that's just the background because we have stuff on the back wall, but I live in Camarillo, California in Ventura County, which is just north of LA and the San Fernando Valley.
Love it. And what was it like going through the pandemic?
Ooh, as a comic or in my real job?
Both.
So as I work for the Department of Motor Vehicles. We were never closed. We were closed to the public, I should say, for about 97 days, and then we were open. So for me, there was like, we didn't lose a beat. We just got up and went to work. as a comic, no venues were open here in LA and Ventura County. So everything was, as we're doing now, on Zoom, which was a blessing and a blessing and a curse, you know. The blessing was I got to meet people like you. I made some really, really great friendships on the Zoom meetings with some really well-known comics who I'm not going to name drop because that's just not my style. But, and then of course, there's always the haters of, you're doing Zoom? Why would you do that? Because I'm still new and I still need the practice.
Exactly.
So, but other than that, it's just been, for me, because of the work that I do and the work that my wife does, we didn't miss a beat. There was really nothing that stopped us from doing anything. So
That's good. And so what kind of work does your wife do?
she runs a in-home family childcare from our home.
Wow.
It's a really great job for me because the first kid gets there about 7:40. I leave at 7:30. They're done. They're done. They're being picked up by 5:30. I'm home at 5:45. So it really, it's a phenomenal job for me.
Man, you orchestrated that perfectly. That
I
was
did,
by
yeah.
accident, huh? Not by design.
A little bit by design. She didn't want to work past 5:30 and she didn't want to start before 7. So that's how she sets up her business.
Yes. So during the pandemic, did any of your loved ones or your immediate family come down with COVID?
As far as well, my wife, no, me, no. My sister in the Bay Area, no. Nobody in my immediate family, no, but I did have a couple of coworkers who came down with it. I know different people from different realms of my life that came down with it, but in my immediate family, no, we got very lucky.
Good deal. That's good to hear. What is it that you clung to besides your wife to make it through the pandemic?
My belief in a higher power, my sobriety, and all of that pertains to that, which is, I'm not a religious person by nature, but I do believe in God. I do believe that if you ask him to protect you and to help you, he does. And, you know, every day it was just the same thing. So that's like every other day, get up in the morning, do my 3 S's, pray to God, make my breakfast, feed the dogs, go to work. You know?
Yes. Were you ever afraid for your life when going to work at DMV with all kinds of yahoos coming in?
Seeing some of these people drive that have been given licenses from my office, I'm terrified every day. But going to work, no, we really haven't had any issues at work. I mean, like any other job, you get people who are going to be angry about the situation. And they put me on the front door a lot during the pandemic because I'm a big boy and I'm an ex-Marine and I can handle myself. And it's like, I don't like wearing the mask either, sir, but I can't let you in the building without one.
Good.
And we can, you know, 99 times out of 100, like, okay, and they put it on. But it's always that one who wants to be a jerk. And
Yes.
it's like, I was a baseball umpire for 35 years. I was a Marine for 4 years. I grew up in a Navy house. I can be a jerk. I know how to do that. I can bow up with the best of them, but there's just, really, it's like, my hands are tied. I can't let you in without a face covering.
That's
You know?
right.
So
So
you can get mad all you want, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it. And people get so nasty at the DMV. It's like,
Well, they come in mad anyway because it's how much? Dude, you lived here for 30 years. It's been the same thing for 30 years. Why would you get mad now?
I know that I feel so bad for people at the DMV. When I go in there, they get stomped on by the customers.
Sometimes.
Yeah. It's like
It
the
takes a
IRS.
very, from what I've seen, it takes a very special kind of person to work at the DMV. Sometimes I mean that in a little bus kind of way, but most of the time I mean you have to be able to diffuse and disarm. You know,
Oh, I
'cause
like
you're
that.
coming in upset because your registration is $460 and you're late, so there's penalties on top of that. And you're going to write me a check and say thank you when that transaction is over. So to go from being angry to saying thank you for your politeness and your kindness. You have to be a special person to make that happen. And most of the time, I'm pretty good at it. I can't say every time, because there are times where they just push that wrong button and I'm like,
Ah,
I go to lunch at 1, you want to have a conversation?
yes. Well, let's talk about you, Ken, when you were a little kid. I find it fascinating, and I know the people who watch this really like to know, how many people were in your family? Where'd you grow up? Let's cover that.
So I grew up in Northern California in a little town called Rohnert Park. It's up in Sonoma County. Most people do not know where that is. So you find San Francisco on the map, go north about an hour, and that's where I grew up, in the wine country, Sonoma and Napa.
Yes.
So all those wonderful table wines that y'all are drinking came from my neck of the woods.
How many
I'm a
in
Navy-
your family?
I'm a Navy brat. My dad did 27 years in the Navy. So growing up, I had my sister, Amy, my mom and my dad, always, and forever had pets. Turns out that at one, I remember about 12, 13 years old, we were at the county fair, and it was just on a whim, we went, let's go see the palm reader, and just, why not, right? So we did. And she said to my parents or to my dad, that you have 3 children. And my dad was like, no, it's just these 2, no. Fast forward to 4 years ago, and I got a text from who now turned out to be my niece that said, I'm going to paraphrase, hi, you don't know me, but I think your dad might be my mom's dad. It was a little bit longer than that, but that's the paraphrase. My response was, if you're family, come over for coffee. If you're trying to hurt my family, be advised I am armed.
Good for you.
Because you're not going to mess with my family. That just doesn't work.
I need a husband like that.
So doing the 23andMe thing, it turns out that I am in actuality the middle child. I have an older sister that we didn't know about till about 3 or 4 years ago.
Incredible.
And it's been getting to know Kiani has been really kind of great, So yeah, but I grew up in a very small town called Rohnert Park. There was one high school in my town. I think there still is one high school in that same town. I know of people who have graduated more students in their senior year than we had in my entire class. It was one of those towns where everybody knows everybody, right? Which is great. And always not so much, because walking home from school, if I get into an argument with another kid, every stay-at-home mom is like, what are you doing? You can't, And by the time I got home, my parents are going, what? Because they all called. I'm like, my mom was on the school board, which made things so much fun. And my dad put a third of my high school teachers and junior high teachers and elementary school teachers who were still fairly young, in their 20s and 30s, in the Navy Reserves. So he recruited all of my teachers, which was kind of interesting.
You got them in the military?
Yeah, they all went. A lot of my the priest who married my sister, performed the ceremony, I should say, was a Navy reservist for 25 years, and my dad recruited him. So it was that's just kind of how that whole thing was. I spent a lot of time outside.
Do you do jokes about that?
I'm writing them. I'm trying to work on them so I can cut out some of the fat and just go A to B without having to go A to B. You know what I mean? It's like the whole process.
Did you go to Catholic school?
No, I went to a public school.
And they recruited all your teachers, a ton of them.
Recruited all of my teachers who were of age to be recruited.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they were like, well, it can't be as bad as trying to teach Ken.
Yeah, pretty much. Can't be as bad, He recruited all the elementary school teachers who were happy to be away from the little kids for a while. The high school teachers are already too salty and too jaded to go in.
Yes, absolutely. So growing up, you had 2 siblings. And then now you're the middle child, and you thought you were the oldest, and now you
Correct.
find out you're not the oldest, but you
Correct.
really were the oldest socially. So
Yeah.
how does that affect your psyche, and how is that going to get worked into your comedy too?
It has on a couple occasions. It hasn't landed as well as I had hoped, so there's work to be done. But yeah, it'll get worked in there. It'll get worked in there. But affecting my psyche, I'm very, very fortunate. At 27 plus years sober, I've done a lot of work on the psyche part of it. I married a psych major who's also sober. So it's I have somebody in my life when things go a little nuts with that I can talk to.
Yeah.
And I can listen to as well. So without having to spend a whole lot of money.
Now,
So,
what attracted you to your wife?
oh,
Be
everything.
good.
Everything.
Oh.
She speaks from her heart and she tells the truth. And
That's
she does it in a way where it is as least offensive as possible and as least causing as little harm when she tells you the truth, even if you don't like the truth as possible.
Wow.
And she, to me, she's gonna win every beauty pageant she would ever enter. To me, her smile lights up a room. Her heart is on her sleeve, and she tolerates me. So it's like, it's a trifecta. She wins every way, all the way around.
What's the worst part of tolerating you? Never asked this question.
My stubbornness.
Okay.
So sometimes I'll get locked on the subject like a dog with a bone, and I won't let it go. And sometimes to a fault, my willingness to defend her at all costs.
Oh. What is this? Go ahead, Ken. My bad.
So no, it's okay. We were at, for example, we were at Disneyland one time, and season pass holders, and there are certain things at Disneyland that if you do, they will revoke those season pass holders. And somebody dropped an F-bomb at my wife, and that is unacceptable to me in any circumstance. And I was willing to lose our season passes to have a discussion with this gentleman, if you will. And she talked me down, and and we didn't lose our passes. But I did get a few verbal shots in on the gentleman that it's like, no, no, you can't do that. That's special. And you're at Disneyland. Why are you dropping F-bombs in front of little children at Disneyland? I mean, what? So yeah. So yeah, my sometimes it's to a fault. I get myself in trouble defending her because I would just like, you need to apologize now. We're not doing anything else until this is done. And I can get a little bowed up and a little heated about it. And it's not always a good look.
I get it a lot. So you grew up thinking you were the oldest.
Mhm.
And then after high school, did you do college before the military? Straight from high school to military? Tell me all about ever since high school.
So I was a high school soccer player. I graduated high school on Friday, was in boot camp on a Wednesday. But I was in the DEP program for about a year. And the reality is that I didn't think I was college material. My self-esteem was kind of in the toilet. I was drinking a lot in high school, so I didn't have a whole lot of good things going on in my head. But I wanted to follow in Dad's footsteps, because what I really wanted was to make Mom and Dad proud. You know what I mean? Every kid wants that. So I figured I'll join the Navy and I'll get into the submarine program, the whole bit. And I walk into the recruiter's office, and in fairness to the recruiter, they had stripped the recruiting station down from 5 recruiters to 1 for 7 high schools in the immediate area.
Whoa.
So he was a little busy. However, you don't not even look up from the stack of paperwork you're going and go, get the F out of my office, I'm too busy to talk to anybody. That's just not professional.
No.
So before I left, I went, do me a favor, Chief, take a look at the plaques on the wall behind you for recruiting station of the year and recruit of the year from 1979 to 1977 to 1980. And it was my dad. It was my dad's name up there on the wall. And I showed him my ID and he went, crap. And as I was leaving pissed off, Gunny went, come here. And I went over and I talked with Gunnery Sergeant Red Miles. And 4 days later, he was at my house signing paperwork for me to go on the DEP program.
Wow.
And then I went to boot camp in San Diego and went to mortar school in San Diego, and then promptly never saw a mortar again.
Where did you work?
I ended up at this little bitty town called Goose Creek, South Carolina.
And
so
what did you do?
So we were security forces. We had the biggest nuclear facility shy of a reactor on the East Coast. We were right outside of Charleston. And every time the Navy boys got deployed and had to get their ships loaded with weapons, they came from my duty station. So we had complete warheads of every size on base at all times. Every Marine who was on duty was locked and loaded, literally one in the chamber and the magazine full, just in case. And the city of Charleston loved us. Oh, because every time the Navy would leave, we're running a convoy down through downtown to get to the base with 30 Humvees, and every one of them got an M60 loaded and guys on the turret going like this to make sure nobody's gonna, you know what I mean? It's just safety protocol. Blocking off streets, blocking off train tracks. They were not thrilled with us a lot of the time. But on the other hand, we brought in a lot of money, so they had to deal with it.
So what's the craziest thing that ever happened when you were in the military?
Crazy or fun? It's kind of a crazy thing. So
yeah, anything like that.
So we had I went in the 80s. I went in 1985. So 1984, the barracks were blown up in Beirut. A lot of people don't remember that. And so they were constantly running anti-terrorist drills because that was the big thing in the 80s and 80s terrorist, anti-terrorist drills. And the Navy, one of the Navy SEAL teams, was deployed to our area to run anti-terrorist drills against us, right? To try to come on base and try. They didn't tell us that it was just drills. So we've got guys in our sights and on the ground ready to, to do what we've been told to do. And then we find out, oh, good job, guys. It was just a drill. No, you can't blow up a car in front of our in front of the main gate and say it's only a drill. So that was some of the crazy stuff that happened. And then of course, when that little 2-week training exercise was over, out drinking with the Navy SEALs who have been on duty, that was a bad idea. That was just a bad idea. Then another one of the fun things we did is we had because we were a naval base right outside of us, the British Royal Navy would use our base, would park their boats sometimes. And we were partying and playing with the with the British soccer team. That was on, apparently in the British Navy, soccer is a very big thing. So all ships have a team. And there's 2 ships that were parked at our house had a team, and we had a team on base. So we decided to have a match, and to say that the American soccer players got destroyed by the English soccer players would be an understatement, because we were just they play from the birth, and we don't play till we're like in 3rd grade or 4th grade. So they've got such an advantage and such a better skill set than we ever did. But it was fun. We had a good time.
Super. So how many places did you see when you were in the Marine Corps? Just that one? 2?
I saw Goose Creek, South Carolina, and Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Oh, you did? Camp
Yeah.
Lejeune. Okay, what's the major difference between the 2?
First is size. Camp Lejeune is a much bigger base, so you can meet a whole lot of different people. Second is, I would say, attitude, in a sense. And I don't mean like being a jerk attitude. On barracks duty, which I was on, if you outranked me, you're a corporal, I'm a lance corporal, E3 or E4. You've been on post 10 minutes. Because you're an E4 and I'm an E3, you're right, I'm wrong. You haven't even read the duty station commands yet. You don't even know what your job, you don't even know where your room is. but because you outrank me, you're right, I'm wrong. Whereas at Lejeune, if you're an E4 and I'm an E3 and we're having a disagreement, we could have that disagreement. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you as an E4 are wrong, you can, it's okay. And if it goes too far, you can always we can have a closed door discussion. and nobody, we have a closed door discussion, my I's dotted, your I's dotted, and then it's we're done. It's over with. There's no reprimand. But on Bear's duty, if I say to you as an E4 that you're an idiot, you don't know what you're doing, I'm going up to office hours in 10 minutes, and I'm getting written up.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, but you're ex-military, so you know how that game is played.
Not really. 1 second here.
No worries. I'm here for you.
I just got booked to feature. My first time.
Hey, good for you.
First time not doing it for myself.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you. So, so you're in the military, but you didn't meet your wife there, right?
Oh, I met my wife when I got out.
So you're in the military, you're a single guy, you're partying with the rest of the crew. And so you must have been, I guess maybe you must have been really glad to meet somebody stable because you've gone through a lot of years of not being sober.
So me and my wife met in the rooms of AA. And
You met where?
We met in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're both sober.
Oh my gosh.
She's got me by a year. Trust me, she lets me know. She'll say things to me like, baby, can you get up and get me a glass of water? And I'm like, you're right there. You'll understand when you're 28 years sober.
Wow.
Because she's got me, but she's a year longer than me. So I'm like, that's just not fair. Because I'll never catch her. I'll never understand being the same age as her. So that's a little inside joke that we have. Plus, I love doing things for her. But my wife is a college graduate. We both did a lot of work in our foundation of AA to get as stable as we can, and we keep adding to that and expanding that. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to know where I stand with someone.
What's this foundation?
Take care of ourselves. We do our work in AA. We do the steps.
Okay.
And we're not afraid to tell each other the truth. We have learned how to do it lovingly and with as little venom as possible. But sometimes, man, the truth comes straight at you and it just kicks your butt.
Yes.
Absolutely. One of the biggest benefits besides being sober and meeting my wife is that I have learned how to communicate specifically with her, but it took me years for her to, I would ask her, baby, how was your day? And what she would do, what I like to say, verbally vomit on me on how her day was. The kids did this, the parents did this. And it took me years to go and say nothing until she would ask me, do you think I did the right thing? What do you think? If she doesn't ask me that question, which for a guy is hard because we want to fix it. We want to fix it. And she wasn't asking me to fix it. She was asking me to listen. Wow. And it took me a while to realize that that's what she wanted. However, the good news is when she was done, she would ask me how my day was. And I get the same pleasure of verbally vomiting on her. Oh, I do the work being mean, whatever. But then when we're done with it, we're done with it. So when we're at dinner, we're at dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When we're sitting on the couch, ignoring each other, playing on Facebook, we're not thinking about work. We're not thinking about, how big of a jerk that guy was at DMV, or why was little so-and-so's parents late from work and didn't call me. We're not thinking about that because we're there with each other. We might not be doing anything, but we're there, we're present for each other without having that baggage from work because we cleared it, which is really quite stress-free and quite relaxing to be able to sit at dinner with my wife and be at dinner with my wife.
Yeah.
It's I'm not saying AA is for everybody, but I think the work that gets done in AA for you to be the best you can be is, you know, that's just me.
I couldn't agree with you more. When you are honest and you're present, it takes the drama out,
Mhm.
especially if you're going to be kind, mentioning things to each other.
Yep.
So, do you have children with your wife?
Not with this one. This is Stephanie's my second wife.
Mhm.
My first wife got married very, very young, 20 and 21. And my son will be 32 in March. I'm sorry, April. So we had him fairly young as well. And he lives in Portland with his mom. And her mom lives in Portland as well. He doesn't live with mom, but he lives in Portland close to his mother, which is where he wants to be. And I say good for him.
What part of Portland?
He was in just on the outskirts of Portland. Started with a B. I can't remember the name.
Beaverton.
Beaverton, exactly. He was there in Beaverton for a couple of years. And then I think the last job he had took him more in toward the city area. I'm not really sure.
Got it?
Because we don't talk much.
Yeah. Got it.
So I reach out to him every at least once a week by text or by phone, and maybe once every 25 phone calls or texts, he'll reach back.
Got it.
So yeah, you know.
Well, at least you're doing your part. So good for
trying.
you.
I'm trying. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm not perfect either. So we have that in common. So, well, you started somewhere in your life doing comedy, am I right?
I started 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh, just 4 years ago?
Yeah, I was one of the things that I really, so I grew up in Sonoma County. I spent 30 plus years there, with the exception of the 4 years I was in the Marines. And when I met Steph, in the back of my mind, I knew at some point we were going to move back down here to be closer to her parents, which I was fine with mostly. You know, if I'm going to be straight, I was fine with it mostly, because I'm leaving everything that I know, right? So also on the other side of the back of my mind was, if I'm in LA, I could start chasing that acting dream, you know, that I didn't really share too much with too many people. Because when you grow up in a small town like I did, either you're playing sports or you're driving cars or you're working, there's not a whole lot of time for dreaming about doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're a jock or think you are in high school and you want to go do what? You want to go be in the school play? Are you, you know, it's like all the darts, all the name calling, all the stuff just gets tossed at you. And I wasn't strong enough at that point to say, yes, that's what I want to do. So when I moved down, we were sitting on the couch one day, and I looked at my wife and I went, that can't be that hard, watching acting on television. And I said that like 30 times, and she went, either shut up and do it or just shut up. So I went and auditioned for a play like a week later, and I did 4 or 5 plays for fun and for free, you know, community theater kind of stuff. And then one of the guys who was in community theater said, you're funny. You tell a funny story. You just have a natural way about you of being entertaining. Have you thought of doing stand-up? I said, no, I haven't thought about it. Then, of course, I started thinking about it all the time after he said that. And then I was fortunate enough to be the Friday night speaker at the hour-long speaker at a speaker meeting. And just telling my story about my travels and alcoholism and recovery, like 5 people went, you're funny. You should do stand-up. Have you thought about doing stand-up? No, but I did. It's still, you know, and then I went and I found an open mic like 3 nights later, and I've been doing it ever since.
How was the first night?
Terrifying, but thrilling at the same time. You know, being in front of a large group of people really doesn't bother me, because I've been the main speaker at a large AA meeting, 250 people. I've been a baseball umpire where I've worked the championship game at the Open Coliseum, right? So being in front of a large crowd, come on, let's go, let's have fun with it, right? But being in front of a large crowd where everybody's like zoning in on me, trying something that I know was my first time to do, little nerve-wracking, but I went back the next night. So
Yeah.
I had to, so it wasn't, yeah, I went back again and again and again. And then I did what I do with AA. I found somebody who is stronger in the game than me, who's done it, who is at that point where I wanted to be. And I said, hey, Terrence, you ever feel like mentoring somebody? And he said, why, yes. So my friend and mentor, Terrence Washington, we get together a couple times a month, and we go over some jokes that we bounce. At this point, a year and a half, 2 years in, we bounce stuff off each other. You know what I mean? He'll call me and say, hey, I'm working on a new piece. What do you think? And I'm like, or it's funny. And I call him and go, hey, I'm working on something new. How do I trim it from being a 5-minute piece to a 2-minute piece? And he helps me with that kind
Terrence
of
here
thing.
in Vegas?
No, Terrence he was in Oxnard, now he's in Goleta, but he's coming back to Oxnard. His name is Terrence Washington. I think he's the name I sent you about doing the Bob Hope special. Bob Hope
Yes.
spot.
I don't think I ever heard from him, did I?
I don't know. I know he's on a thread that we were on at one point.
Yeah, I wrote him and I haven't heard back.
Okay, I'll get in his ear.
I'll write him right now. Might as well. People don't care if I stop and do that. You don't want me to forget now, do you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, how has your career gone in 4 years? Besides having mentors and getting up and having fun with being not afraid of large crowds, how you been doing with it?
I'm one of those weirdos. I don't really care if I bomb. I mean, yes, I care if I bomb. We all care if we bomb, if we're being straight. But if I can learn from the experience, then it's a win for me. Even if nothing lands and I don't get any laughs, if I learn what I did incorrectly, or if I learn to flip the sequence of a joke, then it's a good day. But doesn't really answer your question. How has my 4 years in the game been going? In the last year during the pandemic, I have been paid to be on stage 3 times. You're one of them, but I've been paid 3 times. And the first time I got paid to do a show was, yay! It was really just, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing it, and people like it, and people are laughing, and the producer paid me, and you paid me because you said you would. And then another show I did, it was like people put tips in it's a show in Lancaster where you don't know how much you're gonna get because the audience puts tips in a bucket, and the headliner gets X and the rest of it gets dispersed between everybody else. And it was like a $30 night with all the comics who were there it was great. I've been having fun. I mean, do I want to be a big name someday? Absolutely. Am I there yet? In my head, my ego, yes. In my heart, no. I know there's work to be done.
What is an area of your comedy that needs strengthening, if you're going to be honest?
Transitions.
What's that?
Transitions.
Got it.
From one topic to the next.
That's exactly what I've been working on, trying to make it smoother for the audience.
And trying to cut the fat out, if you will. I tend to be a little long-winded, as you're hearing.
We all have that problem. We all have to learn that skill. That's awesome. And the transitions, cutting the fat and transitions. Yeah. I think cutting the fat comes first, and then transitions is like more down the road.
Yeah, one of the things I've been really grateful for with Terrence, and even some other comics who I've asked for help or asked their opinion about a set or this joke, try saying it this way. Put this part here and then this part here, and see how it lands next time. And 9 times out of 10, they've been right. Most of it's just I'm learning to think more like a comic. You know what I mean? I'm learning how to go, oh, this would be funnier if I said it this way, or this would be funnier if I said, if I just left the extras off of it. it would just be, it just let this be instead of this, it would be much better. So I'm learning how to do that. And it's an experience, that's for sure. But
So
to me, it's a worthwhile one. So I'm having,
what
you know,
to you, it's what?
to me, it's a worthwhile experience.
Totally.
You know, last couple of months I've had to not be up as much as I would like. My wife has made a decision to do interviews for childcare after she closes, and we have 2 puppies. So my job is to walk the puppies to get them tired, and by the time we're done with that, it's just too late to get up and go. And she has to be nice to kids in the morning, so I can't be out till 11:30 at 12 o'clock at night with 2 puppies in the house.
Wow.
But you know, we'll figure that balance out again. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what a sacrifice you're making in a lot of regards. You know, you become someone who is clean and sober. What a sacrifice. You're a dedicated husband, a loving father. These are all sacrifices, and being willing to work with your wife and to work around the hours that she needs you to do, and then that cuts back on performing. I applaud you for all of that. My gosh. So where will you be performing in the near future, Ken?
I'll be at Corbin Bowl in Tarzana the next 2 Thursdays. I'll be on your show tomorrow.
Yes.
I think, and then everything is kind of closing down over here for Christmas. The bowling alley where we do our show is they're not going to be open for New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve, and that's the only time Ryan has a show there. Ryan's trying to convince me to do Monday at Liquid Zoo. I'm not sure if I'm going yet or not. It just depends on the scheduling here. So it's I get up a couple times a week in mostly in San Fernando Valley. I used to get up a lot more here in Ventura County. Just the scene isn't as smooth and as comfortable as it was 4 years ago. So I've made the decision to kind of go further south.
Yes.
Good people. They're just it's the same 20 comics who get up every night, you know, and it's the same stuff every time. So I just I wanted to go someplace where I could be seen by other people, and get booked on different shows. So, you know, and it's been working, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
Excuse me. Excuse me
worries.
for yawning right in the middle of the interview, everybody. And for Ken, I'm so sorry. So where would you like people to follow you on the social media platforms?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I refuse to do Twitter, though I just go down too many rabbit holes. I go down enough as it is on Facebook. So yeah, Instagram and Facebook. That's the only ones that I'm even remotely tech savvy on.
Are you going by Ken Mottard?
Yes. Yeah, on both. It's if anybody in the country has my last name, we're related.
Wow.
So fortunately I don't have the last name Smith or the last name Brown or Washington, you know, which is a rather common name. My name is, I don't want to say unique, but it is, if the same last name as me, we're related somewhere.
Got it. Well, what I'd like you to close out the show. You can have a few minutes to just talk to people at home who might be watching this after the fact, and encourage them in any area of your life or areas of your life that you have expertise.
Okay. I will tell my favorite story that I tell from the AA platform. When my wife and I were first dating, we were 2 alcoholics in the same space, and we had a lot of baggage. Because again, nobody comes to AA going, I just won the lottery. No, you go to AA because it's pretty much the last house on the block. And my wife and I were doing this. We were just butting heads. So I called my sponsor about it, and he asked me a couple questions. And the first question he asked me was, what kind of person do you like to hang out with? A winner or a loser? Didn't ask me for my definition. I'm not asking for yours, but you have one. You have a definition of both of those people. And I went, a winner, of course. I mean, who wants to hang out with losers, right? And he's great. So when you fight with Stephanie, do you fight to win or do you fight to lose? Well, I was young and stupid, and I was like, if you're gonna fight, you fight to win. Oh, I see. So you turn your girlfriend, the person you say you love with every fiber of your being, into a loser, somebody you don't want to hang out with anyway. What? That was brutal, but it was honest. And he was right. So I go home, got that nice little gem tucked into my pocket, and it's going great. We're not arguing. It could have been 6 days, 6 weeks, or 6 months later. I don't really remember. And I call Mike again, and I'm like, me and Steph have been butting heads, and I just don't get it. And he says, come to the house. Now, Michael has never not let me in his house. Right? Every time I show up, he's like, come on in, have a cup of coffee, I got dinner on, whatever. This time he wouldn't let me out. He wouldn't let me in the house. We're on the front porch. And he's doing my absolute favorite thing in the world. Every word, he's punching me in the chest, to emphasize the point. He's like, right now, in this minute, his first question that day was, do you believe in God? Now, I'm not asking if anybody else does, but for me, the answer was, and always will be yes. He's like, great. So do you believe that God controls everything? Again, don't care where you stand on that. My answer is yes. He's like, great. So when you fight with Stephanie, are you fighting? You've already said you fight to win. You're trying to change her to be better. Who do you think you are? I'm like, what? He's like, right now, in God's eyes, she's perfect. Right? If you believe in God, you believe everything is exactly how He plans it. Right now, this minute, in God's eyes, she's perfect. If you are fighting with her, you want to change what God has done. Who the H are you to be better than God? I cried on that man's porch. I was 32 years old. We were about 2 months away from getting married. And I broke down into a puddle of tears because I was trying to be better than my higher power and change the person who I said I love into being something different. And if you are out there listening to this conversation right now, what I will tell you is, let the person that you love be loved. No matter what they're doing, it's exactly what they're supposed to be doing. You don't have to like it. You don't have to think it's a good idea. You don't even have to agree with it. And when they get through it, whatever the it is, open your arms, give them the shoulders to cry on, pick up the pieces, because someday it'll be your turn for somebody to pick up your pieces.
Wow.
So that's
beautiful.
probably the deepest lesson I've ever learned in 54 years of being a human being, is let people be who they are, and pick up the pieces when they're ready.
What if they're abusing you? Now, I know that in a wife and a husband that doesn't happen as often as the other way around statistically, but for those that are out there and they're in an abusive relationship, what do you say about that?
For me, anybody who puts their hands on their spouse in other than a loving manner, I have no use for. I don't think there's any reason for a man to hit a woman. And if you are, unfortunately, one of those male or females who are getting abused physically or even emotionally by your partner, at some point you're going to need to find the strength to pick up that phone and call somebody, whether it's your mom, whether it's your dad, whether it's your local pastor, whether it's the 800 number that says, I'm being abused, please help me. Pick up that phone. You may not get the answer you want, but you'll get the answer you need.
Wow, I love it. You're so awesome. And I love your comedy, and I love you. And I look forward to every Saturday and Sunday when I have an open list. I've only had one time with a close today. For you to come back on. You're always welcome.
I appreciate that so much.
Thank you so much, Ken Mottard.
Thank you, Linda, for letting me be on your show. It was a joy. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Yes. And now that you've graduated from this, like Sinbad did, and you're on the same plane as Sinbad, then anytime you want to come back and plug something you're going to be doing, or some fundraiser, nonprofit, you want to plug something, come back on.
You got it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a joy and a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.